This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. In light of the stories that have come out in regards to pagers exploding and walkie-talkies exploding, in covering that story, I mentioned that you would soon see a ton of propaganda from the mainstream media, the state-run media, because that is what the mainstream media is. It's state-run. This is not independent. This is all our tax money funding state-run media, pretending to be some type of course, that's part of the psychological operation, pretending that it's independent journalism. It's state-run media. So since then, we've had a bunch of articles come out, just like I said they would, because a lot of people out there were questioning the story about pagers, saying, how in the world and why in the world do they have pagers? And secondly, if you're talking about a terror group like Hezbollah, why wouldn't they check the pager in the first place if they're so paranoid about something happening with a cellular device? Because, of course, the media doesn't want you to realize that they can send pulses, electromagnetic pulses to your phone, which could, in fact, turn your phone into a bomb. They didn't realize that so many people would start to get very suspicious of the story. So, of course, they're running articles like these. Don't fool yourself about the exploding pagers. Your phone is not a bomb. They promise, right? From booby trap walkie-talkies to exploding pagers, could our phones and cars be next? Well, of course, the answer to that is yes, 100%. But they'll tell you the opposite because that's what the state-run media does. They lie and lie and lie. And they have to make sure that they get propaganda like this out after an event like that because people start to say to themselves, is my phone potentially a threat? I mean, I've had days where my phone has gotten really, really hot. Could something happen with my phone? So you have to see some of the state-run media clips that I'm going to play for you in this video. So please make sure you stick around. You're going to want to see them. You're going to want a good laugh. But let me just read to you some of the stuff that is out there first. So some of these articles, look how this is how they use deceptive mind control. Could my wireless headphones, baby alert camera, or any number of other connected devices be configured by some bad actor to blow up, ? I love how they use the word bad actor now. Ever since we all use that word crisis actor, they've hijacked that and they use the word actor in real events. Kind of like they took the word, because we used to all say things like, oh, it's time to wake up, there's an awakening happening, and they took that and made it woke, right? That's how their deceptive practices work. So could some bad actor blow up one of my devices? Could my new Chinese internet-connected car be remotely turned into a four-wheeled zombie killer by the Chinese government the next time they have a disagreement with the West? And they love using terms like that. That's part of the psychological operation, right? Zombie killer, four-wheeled zombie killer. People out there read it, they dismiss it, then they think that the things that we're all saying is crazy. But the fact of the matter is they can. And if you watch the behavior of the government, no matter what your political affiliation is, whoever you might go and pretend that you're voting for at the fake election, all these people are showing that they cannot be trusted, conservatives and Democrats. So the answer to that is yes. So it goes on to say, as for getting an explosive charge into even one iPhone or Android, let alone thousands, that's probably not possible, which is why the tech brains behind the first of this week's attacks went for old pagers. Fairly simple devices, beepers, date back to the early 1980s and have pockets of space inside for the tiny amount, 10G is plenty, needed to become a small bomb. So now they're trying to convince you that inside the pager, it's not cram-packed. There's space in there. So people could put bombs, apparently, inside these pagers, which are beyond tiny, right? But they're saying, well, there's a little bit of space in there. And they're also just disregarding the whole notion of Hezbollah, who is supposed to be a terror group, who is supposed to be using things offline, technology that's offline, like a 1980s pager, because they're afraid that they're going to be attacked with cell phones. Yet they didn't check these things in the first place, where you could very easily open up a pager. It's not that difficult to actually open up. And you would think they would at the very least maybe run it through some type of some type of detector to be able to see if there was a bomb inside, right? So listen to this. So they say a modern smartphone is packed to the last fraction of a millimeter with circuitry and other hardware. Finding space for new features in an upcoming phone model takes years of negotiation between teams at a company like Apple or Samsung. But here's the reality of the matter. Let's take our attention off of putting a bomb in a phone because it is a bit of a ridiculous theory at this point. And let's focus on the fact that an electromagnetic pulse is real. And it's been proven that they can send a pulse to your phone and blow it up. Here's a video clip that they don't want you to see where somebody is sending an electromagnetic pulse to an electromagnetic pulse, which is a phone, and the result doesn't look too great. Imagine this was in your pocket. Yeah, even better, imagine that was right next to your head. So, did that phone have a bomb in it? Well, of course it didn't have a bomb in it, but they want to keep everybody at a dumbed down level, paying attention to narratives like that. Well, you can't get inside the phone. The phone is cram-packed with stuff, so they can't really put a bomb in a phone, but really you're walking around with a ticking time bomb because that's what a phone essentially is. And you may have noticed over the years, you may remember, I mean, I know most people out there don't even think anymore, but when the cell phones first came out, a common problem was that people were always having to get new batteries because the batteries were dying off. They weren't lasting as long. But now you can't even remove a battery from a phone. And I thought that these guys were trying to make money, right? I mean, if Apple and all them, if it's just about being a company and the goal of a company is to make money, well, then they would never have gotten rid of you being able to remove a battery in the first place because they would have just done what they used to do, which is constantly force people into buying new batteries because the phones would go junky after 6 months to a year of usage and people would constantly have to get new batteries. But they don't want you to realize that the lithium battery in your phone can be used as an exploding device. Kind of like how they avoid all those stories out there about people with electric vehicles and how their cars catch fire in their garage. You never hear too much about those stories. In fact, the government is giving you money and tax exemptions to go buy an electric vehicle, which they will have the ability to shut off and on. But of course, as you heard in that article, they like to crack jokes about China having the ability to shut down your zombie vehicle, blah, 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 blah. The simple fact is that they're ticking time bombs as well. The lithium batteries in those cars explode all the time. Most times we see stories of hurricanes occurring and people with electric vehicles, homes burning to the ground because their electric vehicle has conveniently caught fire. And the other thing they don't tell you about the electric vehicle is that when it gets below a certain temperature, you know, this thing called winter in places like New York or Chicago, your car's not going to start. And the battery in an electric vehicle is not like a battery in a gas-powered car. The battery itself in the electric vehicle is what you're paying for when you buy an electric vehicle. So there's no replacing the battery. The car itself becomes a clunker. But these are things they don't want you to think because, well, these are all things that would make too much sense, right? So now what I want to show you is something that's really important to see. Because I talk all the time about state-run media and propaganda. All they produce is propaganda. They can't even give you stories that make sense when they try to defend what they're saying. They just completely talk about something else. We're all talking about electromagnetic pulses. The media will not talk about electromagnetic pulses because thus their whole theory will be debunked about how your phone can be turned into a bomb. So what they do, and I'll give you specifics here. I'm going to show you from France 24. Now, France 24 is considered French Public Broadcast Service, right? So it's PBS. You ever heard of PBS in America? They air all that garbage. They are the propaganda like Sesame Street that they want you to put your kids in front of. Well, state-run media is what France 24 is, and it's essentially what you see in America. There's just the illusion in America that they're independent journalists because they really want you to believe that these are all independent things that they're talking about and they all care about you and they're just reporting news when in fact the news itself is scripted. State-run media is what you're seeing going on around the world right now, and your tax money is funding it. So this is one of the first clip I'm going to play for you. This is one of the funnier things I've seen. Listen to this. iPhones, cars, and toilets. No, these devices did not explode during electronic attacks in Lebanon. Now, the reason I'm showing you this first is because this is propaganda at its finest. Talking about iPhones exploding, and in fact, you'll see a clip from a store that sold phones that blew up, but they want to tell you that the phone didn't really blow up, that there was a walkie-talkie in the store. So in other words, there's a store that sells cell phones in the year 2024, which makes sense, right? But somehow they had walkie-talkies in there on the shelves to be bought, and it blew up, right? And they're saying that that's disinformation because the person who posted it said phones were blowing up in the store because clearly there's not walkie-talkies being sold in the store. And even if there were, isn't the narrative that's out there that Israel targeted specific devices who are owned by Hezbollah? So a device being sold in a store would mean that what? Oh, a random citizen could have it because it's in a store where it's being sold. So some kid could have bought it and went home with it. But they don't want you to realize that phones can do this. And it's likely this event occurred using cell phones. So they put in things like this, iPhones and toilets. And they're going to show you stuff posted online. And I want you to watch this, okay? They're going to show you somebody showing a picture of a toilet blowing up. And they put this in here just, purposely because they want you to dismiss the whole notion of phone by putting toilet next to it. Right? Because if you hear about the phone, you go, oh my goodness. But then you hear toilet, you automatically go, yeah, how are they going to blow up my toilet? What are they going to put a bomb in my toilet? Okay, this is funny. Blowing up toilets, poopy, haha. And everybody laughs and dismisses it, which is why they did. But look at this way that this state-run media works, because this is what I believe is coming to America soon and all countries. They literally take people's tweets and then they try to debunk their tweets or anything they upload online. I'm surprised they haven't put one of my videos up there. They're probably afraid because they realize that people would probably see my channel and wake up, which is what they've always been afraid of, because too much common sense actually wakes people up to what's going on. So they show you people's tweets, then they claim that they're debunking it, calling people Russian misinformation. It's all the same talking points we hear in America, but I've never seen this type of news reporting before, where they're bringing up people's tweets and then they're debunking it. So they don't even mention the fact that some of these people could be joking around, right? Uploading a picture of a toilet. Then they're like, well, this picture of a toilet we found was from 2019, so it has nothing to do with this story, right? So people go, oh, people are just posting stuff, they're making stuff up, right? Then they actually show you video from the store that exploded where there were all cell phones inside, and they say, well, this is misinformation too because it wasn't a phone that blew up, it was a walkie-talkie. You can trust us. Look at this. This is absolutely hilarious.
Up next, it's time for Truth or Fake. Catalina Marchand-Abreu is here in studio. In today's edition, you're talking about X, Catalina. Users are sharing images of a number of electronic devices that supposedly exploded in Lebanon, as well as those pagers and walkie-talkies earlier this week. Tell us more.
That's right, Sharon. A wave of terror has also spread on social media following these exploding devices in Lebanon, as users are also sharing other images of other devices that they claim also exploded as part of the attack. Amongst the claims, an iPhone shared on X here by a pro-Russian user who says new batches of electronic devices, iPhones, notebooks, are exploding right now in stores. As this user also includes this video within the post saying footage shows terrified employees of one such shop, meaning this mobile phone shop, who miraculously managed to run just outside just in time. Then we have a second tweet by Jackson Hinkle, who is a known misinformer on X, who claims that cars are now randomly exploding in Lebanon. If Israel can do this in Beirut, they can do it anywhere, he says. Then there's a final claim that we found, a claim made by a pro-Israel user on X who says that a Hezbollah activist was allegedly hit by an explosion while using the toilet. So going completely off theme with the electronic devices there, Sharon.
So where are these images really coming from then?
Well, Sharon, we'll start where we left off here with this toilet claim. This photo was actually from 2020, here published. We found it by the South China Morning Post, reporting on the destruction of a toilet seat due to a homemade bomb that was placed in a public toilet in Hong Kong. So nothing to do with Lebanon whatsoever. This actually happened during COVID in China. Then we're going to take a look at this post that we just saw by Jackson Hinkle, claiming that cars are exploding everywhere in Lebanon. This claim is misleading since the video is actually real, but it's actually from yesterday. reported here, also published by TF1, it's actually a car that exploded due to the walkie-talkies. However, not due to the car being embedded with explosives themselves. So a misleading claim. Finally, the claim that the iPhones exploded in Lebanon as part of this attack. We actually conducted a reverse image search and we found that this iPhone image is actually from 2021, published here in Cairo 24 in Egypt, reporting on the explosion of an iPhone belonging to a Cairo resident, where we also found within the article the same image that you see published in the viral claims. Although there is a tricky twist here, which makes this post even more misleading, since this user actually posts this video together with this photo, a video that we found was actually took place yesterday. Real images that occurred outside the explosion of this mobile phone shop located in Sidon, Lebanon, as a result of the walkie-talkie explosions, here reported by Al Jazeera, where we can find much of the same elements in these images as well. For example, this man with a tank top as well as the window shop. So an explosion due to a walkie-talkie, not due to an iPhone, per the fake claims. Overall, these posts are fear-mongering posts, adding on more terror to the already stressful situation for the residents of Lebanon.
And there are reports that Hezbollah members were seen throwing their iPhones in panic following these attacks, Carolina.
That's right, Sharon. Despite the fake claims that we just reported on the iPhones, Le Monde does report that due to this general panic that took over Lebanon, Hezbollah members actually threw their phones to the ground, worried that all of their communication equipments were compromised, including their iPhones. So an attack that succeeded in instilling fear and paranoia, not only for Hezbollah, but and overall the Lebanese population, in what is this psychological warfare trick. There are reports that there's panic-stricken Lebanese have tossed their power banks. They sleep with mobile devices outside their rooms. They fear that perhaps their fridges will blow up next, or even their cigarette lighters. So they'll never look at an electronic device the same way ever again, as Human Rights Watch denounces this attack as an indiscriminate and illegal attack under international law.
So that right there is state-run media at its finest. And it continued from there, because it wasn't just those clips of exploding toilets and then these people talking about panic and fear propaganda and how all these people out there just pumping fear. Meanwhile, that's all that the news is nothing more than fear. So to call anybody out there that exposed what the government's doing fear is pretty hypocritical, since the news itself is nothing but fear, telling you that this is a threat to your democracy, you're going to lose your freedoms, all these things that they constantly pump out, and then we all expose them for who they are. They're really nervous that people are going to start realizing what their phones actually can do to them, the dangers of their phone, not including the other stuff that I've talked about over the years with radiation and cancer. You're literally walking around with cancer in your pocket, something that's going to exposing you to cancer, on top of the fact that a lot of men can't have babies anymore and they don't figure out why. And it's not just from the magic potions or the chemtrails, it's from the radiation exposure from your phone. So here's the other clip here. Can your phone blow up? Remote device attacks in Lebanon stoke panic. And here's an expert telling you that it's not possible for the phone to blow up. Some people's phones get hot, but that's about it. And, well, remember the clip I showed you earlier about, being able to send an electromagnetic pulse to a phone? Yeah, well, that's proof that you can send a pulse to a phone and blow it up. Yet these people want you to think, well, your phone can catch fire, but that's only if your phone overheats, right? They don't want you to realize that a wicked rogue government can send electromagnetic pulses to phones and cause utter chaos to ensue. In fact, we've seen a lot of the programming with cell phones that they've shown us subtly in movies over the years. But here's more from your state-run media about, can your phone blow up?
This week's attacks on Hezbollah pagers and radios has spread anxiety among the Lebanese people and a sense that no electronic device is safe. With a fair amount of confusion as to how the explosions were triggered, you might be wondering whether you can trust the phone in your pocket or the earphones on your head. Well, here to bring some clarity for all of us is Tech24's Peter O'Brien. Great to speak with you, as always, this Friday.
Hi, Tony.
These attacks were, of course, unprecedented in scale. but were they unprecedented in how they used technology?
Not really. From all the reporting we've seen, it's clear that some sort of plastic explosive was put inside these devices and triggered by a detonator, which itself was triggered when these devices were sent a certain signal. So this is nothing new. In fact, Israel itself has been accused of carrying out this type of attack, although on a much smaller scale, for decades. You only have to look at Yahya Ayash, who in 1996 was in Gaza, who's Hamas's chief bomb engineer. He answered a rigged mobile phone which exploded, and that's how he was killed. So as you say, yes, we've seen it before, but never on this scale, never such a mass explosion of devices all at once, having gone undetected for so long.
Now, initially, we saw some claims that this may have been the cause of a cyber attack that caused the batteries to overheat and explode. That might have sounded plausible to some people because we have heard of cases of batteries and devices exploding.
Yeah, I think it's no surprise that in the initial kind of fog of war, you get some of the more outlandish theories coming up. But I think it's pretty safe to say that this has been debunked. Even if it were possible to send a line of code to a pager that would cause its battery to overheat, it's very unlikely that this would cause an explosion, let alone the kind of simultaneous explosions we saw in hundreds of different devices. Having said that, obviously a battery like the one I've got here can overheat, it can set fire, and it can explode. It's made up of layers and layers of positively and negatively charged cathodes and anodes, and they're attached to a circuit. As you use the device, it slowly drains that energy, and when you charge it back up, it slowly gains more energy. So if you short circuit it, for instance, by damaging it, it can release that energy a lot more quickly. And we've seen, these kind of videos online of battery packs kind of filling with gas and then exploding as they create, so kind of let all that energy out really quickly and then create fires or a buildup of gases. But the point is, in these small electronic devices, whether they be a pager, a radio, a battery pack, or your iPhone, your portable headphones, they're often made of deliberately flimsy plastic as a fail-safe to make sure that they don't build up a huge pressure of gases and then explode, right? If it were hermetically sealed metal and then that were to be pierced, yes, it would cause a massive explosion if there are a buildup of gas inside. But that's not the case. Certainly doesn't seem like the case with this attack. Although I will offer a PSA, that's if you see your battery pack slowly inflate like a pillow, definitely just go and get it disposed safely, because yes, they can be very dangerous.
Okay. Great advice there. Thanks, Peter. Now, it looks like these explosives, in this case of the pagers and the walkie-talkies, that they were implanted into the devices before they were shipped out. So people, I think, are asking, if this could happen on this type of scale, could it happen in an even larger scale?
Yeah, I think it's pretty far-fetched to imagine that the latest generation of iPhone or Samsung will be somehow implanted with plastic explosives and distributed to everyone in the world. I mean, it's just not feasible. Not just because those most high-tech devices are very tightly packed in and it's hard to get more stuff in there, but simply because someone somewhere will be reviewing it or unboxing it and will open it up and tear it down and see what's going on in there. In fact, it's really surprising to see that Hezbollah didn't do that, or if they did, that it passed their tests anyway.
Because these examples that you're giving, though, you're talking about industrial scale hardware. What about personal devices that we all have in our homes?
Yeah, I mean, there's been one example of a massively widespread phone booby trap, if I can call it that. That would be Anom. So in the years 2018 to 2021, the FBI developed a phone which was purposefully booby trapped in a way. It basically it was sold as a encrypted phone with a secure messaging app to criminals around the world. And actually, the trap was that the FBI could see what was being messaged on it at all times. And it was so successful that about 12,000 of these devices were distributed to criminals around the world. And over the course of a few years of gathering intelligence on exactly what kind of gangland hits were going on, what kind of drug runs were going on, police around the world were able to make about 800 arrests of suspects in 16 different countries. So I think both of these examples, what we've seen with Hezbollah and what we saw with Anom, show that if you are a group that has enemies and you get your hardware from one specific source, yeah, you can't be sure that it'll be entirely secure.
So that's how propaganda works, right? They want you to believe that all of us are propaganda. We are all fake news. We're all misinformation, right? Because they don't want you to believe that your phone could actually be dangerous or a weapon after they created this story and put this story out there, or this story circulated that's out there. They don't want people to realize this about cell phones. So they immediately are trying to cover their tracks and saying anybody out there that says your phone could blow up is disinformation. Because like I said, the one thing that they cannot lose is people being dependent on their technology, period. This whole bubble pops. This whole game ends if people get offline, they stop empowering them with doing things digitally, they stop watching their fake news or their fake media, thinking that they're getting some organic, people out there who are influencers or pumping the same communist propaganda. They cannot have you pull away from the hypnotism. Thus, they can't have you thinking any of this stuff about your phone. And they know most people will believe them because most people often do. But I tell you here on this channel the truth. And an EMP can blow up your phone. Now, you might say, well, why would the government ever come after me? Well, maybe in 20 years they will, right? I mean, they've come after the rest of us. We've all lost our freedoms to speak. We've all lost our freedoms to earn financially in certain ways because we didn't get poisoned. We've all lost a lot of things, while other people out there haven't yet. But when suddenly the government decides that they don't care what gender you are and they don't care what highway you ride, whether it's the Hershey one or whatever, they're suddenly going to say, you know what? Now it's your turn. Oh, you did what? You violated your carbon footprint? What did you think? It didn't abide to you? That it was only for conservative people? But since you agree with us and liked us and got us to this point, that we were going to give you a pass because of what you like to do in the bedroom? Well, guess what? That's all over with now. We just used you to help empower this plan to keep the citizens divided, and you guys worked as foot soldiers for us because you were too brain dead to figure out what was going on. But now, well, we're going to do the same thing to you, and we're going to send a pulse to your phone maybe if you continue to disagree with what we're saying, or you're posting things on social media that we don't agree with. And people go, well, that's extreme. They won't do that. No. Well, you currently have a government that stripped millions of people, let's say billions of people, if you look at the global government, of their right to earn money and work for a living if they didn't put something inside their body. They also killed a lot of people by doing that as well. So why wouldn't they do it with an electromagnetic pulse? They're already poisoning people, right? They're already letting criminals run free on the streets. They're actually funding and paying criminals to walk up to people and punch them in the face. So you don't think the government themselves are funny? Well, of course they would. So this is what I said would occur. They'd have to pump out propaganda about your phone blowing up and saying it's a conspiracy. Don't worry about it, right? Your phone's not a bomb. Don't fool yourself. They really had pagers, booby trap walkie-talkies to exploding pagers. Could our phones be next? And our cars? That's a conspiracy. Oh yeah? Who do you think you're giving control up with your car when it's an electric vehicle and it's a driverless vehicle? You don't know who's driving. Oh, just technology's driving it, right? They don't know your name and who you are, and maybe they don't like you. They drive you off a cliff, right? You could trust us. You could trust Big Brother. Why? Well, because Big Brother's proven to you time and time again that they can't be trusted. So why not put all your trust in them and do their work and silence everybody else out there who's trying to expose state-run media, right? Because this is how state-run media works, telling you that the reason that there couldn't be bombs in the phones is because you can't fit one inside of a cellular phone these days because there's less than a fraction of a millimeter inside of it. But they don't mention anything about electromagnetic pulses, of course, because, well, they don't want you to think for 5 seconds. They want you to literally think that somebody put dynamite inside of pagers and somehow Hezbollah didn't notice. Give me another break. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.